Hello everybody and welcome back to Expert Examiner IELTS. My name is Glyn and today I'm going to give feedback on Miyuki's practice IELTS speaking test. Just to remind you, I am giving away free practice speaking tests in May, so if you'd like to take part, please do get in touch. This one wasn't the easiest one to examine. There were some tricky points, but I'll mention that as we go through it. Anyway, let's jump in.
So, good evening. My name is Glyn. Would you please tell me your full name?
Hello, I'm Miyuki Miyuki.
And what should I call you?
So Miyuki response here. Now, the reason for this is that before the test, so when I do these practice tests, I always tell people, if you don't want to give your full name, you don't have to give your full name. But because it's a practice test, I will ask the questions that they will ask in IELTS. So, what's your full name? What should I call you? So before the test began, I mentioned, I will ask you, what's your full name and what should I call you? And so she's answered both questions there. And I think she's realised her mistake, but not a big deal. It's okay.
Miyuki.
Miyuki.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Now, in this first part of the test, I'm going to ask you some questions about yourself. Do you work or do you study?
I'm study.
So initially, the first thing you notice, right, is the accent's very clean. She feels very natural with her speech. It feels very effortless, very relaxed. The language comes out good. But immediately, I am study. And immediately I'm thinking, okay, I am study. Now, we know in English we can say I study or I am studying, but we don't say I am study. And this is a very basic mistake. Now, certainly it's okay to make some basic mistakes. You can still get a high score for grammar with some basic mistakes. But when we start with such a basic mistakes, already it gives the examiner the idea that, maybe this is a person who doesn't know the most basic grammar.
And what are you studying?
I'm studying about the global liberal arts in university.
So this was a tricky one. Now, I had to interpret this, the global liberal arts. Now, I made the deduction that she means the global liberal arts. Global liberal arts. But the pronunciation of it really isn't recognizable. It isn't understandable. Let's just listen again.
Studying about the global liberal arts in university.
Global liberal arts. So it's tough to understand that.
And why did you decide to study this subject?
I mainly decided to go to liberal arts university at first because I had interest for diverse range of study.
So I don't know if that really answers the question. I had an interest in a diverse range of study, so I studied at the Global Liberal Arts University. I'm looking for maybe examples here of how Global Liberal Arts satisfies this wide range of interests, and I don't think she gives that answer.
And since then, I started to research about the some kind of recommendation that my teacher told me about the university.
Again, I started to research about some kind of recommendation that my teacher told me about, but I don't get a satisfying answer for why she decided to study global liberal arts, apart from the fact that she has a wide range of interests. But I want to link that, what is studied in global liberal arts and why do you have that kind of interest? More details would be useful.
University, which related to the liberal arts, or the university which can learn about a lot of fields.
Again, a lot of fields. So you miss points for vocab here, right? A lot of fields such as, I don't know, sociology or philology or whatever. Some of those example subjects would boost the points for vocabulary, for lexical resource, instead of saying a lot of different subjects. Well, give examples.
And what would you like to do after you finish studying?
After I graduate the university, I
A little bit of paraphrase here. After you finish studying, after I graduate the university. Okay, nice paraphrase.
want to work at the UNICEF.
Some problems with articles like the UNICEF, the university. It's not a big problem, but it is technically a mistake with articles.
and mainly I want to support people who are struggling with poverty.
It's a nice answer, and again, pronunciation is very, very strong here. Very strong. Poverty. It's very nice. Maybe a few more details, like how are there any specific roles that you have in mind, or do you mean like supporting people in Japan or abroad, or like are you talking about volunteering? So helping people with poverty, okay, but maybe we could be a little more specific, perhaps.
Okay, thank you. Let's move on now and talk about free time. Do you have a lot of free time?
Yes, I think I have a lot of free times, but
So free times. So she should use free time. Time is an uncountable noun here, so not free times. And also, there's no paraphrase, right? Do you have a lot of free time? Yeah, I think I have a lot of free time. Well, how much free time? We have a lot of words that we can use here. I have a huge amount of free time. I have quite a lot of free time. I have a fair amount of free time. I have stacks of free time. So there are those quantifiers, those words that express how much, how many. You could use many different options there, but you just use the language that the examiner used. Do you have a lot of free time? Yes, I think I have a lot of free time. If you use the language from the question, you don't score points for it. But if you use different language, which expresses a similar idea, then you get good points for paraphrasing. So I have a huge amount of free time is better than yes, I have a lot of free time.
I since I'm a really like I kind of curiosity, like I have a personality who are really
Again, missing this word personality. So the problem is with the L, personality. It comes out as personality, which again, I can just about understand it, but it's noticeable. Personality.
curious with everything. I usually like go to hang out with my friend, but also like do a lot of like research.
It sounds like I go and hang out with my friend. Singular noun should be I hang out with my friends. So we've already had a problem with like a lot of free times, which is a problem with the noun, and the countability of it. And I hang out with my friend instead of friends, which is about if the noun is singular or plural. So see some mistakes with nouns here.
Independently, which not relate to university or any of studies. So
Which doesn't relate to, which isn't related to, but not which is not related to. So small grammar mistake.
I have a lot of free time, but even that
Repetition. I have a lot of free time, but even that I. So maybe but still I, or even then I, but not even that I.
have a lot of schedule.
Again, I don't know about this. A lot of schedule. I have a busy schedule, so an adjective here. What kind of schedule? A full schedule, a busy schedule. But we don't use a quantifier. We don't say like a lot of schedule or much schedule, but a busy schedule, a heavy schedule, a difficult schedule, an adjective. What kind of schedule?
And do you like spending your free time outside?
Yes, I love spending my free time outside.
Again, paraphrase, she has changed like to love, right? Do you like spending your free time? Yes, I love spending my free time outside. But everything else, she's just changed one word. There are different ways of doing this. Like, yeah, I love, I don't know, going outside, or I'm a huge fan of being in the outdoors. I know sometimes these paraphrases sound a little bit forced, a little bit unnatural. Sometimes we will repeat back the constructions, the language that the examiner uses. But I just want to make you aware here that this happens a little bit too often for me. That Miyuki, I've just noticed that many of the questions that I asked, they are echoed back to me in the answers, the same kind of language. So you should definitely look for opportunities to paraphrase, to reformulate, to reword the answers.
Especially when I can like talk with my friend or talk with my teacher face to face.
We'll notice this little use of like, the filler. So I really like that instead of using I like. It's really good.
It's gonna makes me feel really comfortable.
Kinda also another little filler. It kind of makes me feel really comfortable. Nice.
Like especially because since the COVID-19's happened for a long time.
I don't know, but yeah, COVID-19 has been around for a long time. Maybe even we could use past simple here. I don't think COVID is, even though it is still around now, it doesn't really have the big effect that she's talking about anymore. So maybe we had COVID for a long time, or COVID was around for a long time.
I couldn't spend much time in my high school to talk with my friend, but also with my
Again, singular use to talk with my friend. Now, it's possible that she only has one friend, but I think she wants to use the plural to talk with my friends. My friends.
lot of people near to me. So I really love to go outside right now.
And let's move on now and talk about animals. Do you like animals?
Yes, I like animals.
So again, do you like animals? Yes, I like animals. Yes, I do is fine here. You can use that substitution. Yes, I do. And then answer some more. Again, sometimes we will and we can repeat back the language. It's fine, but we shouldn't do it all too much.
Why?
I especially like cat, but
I especially likes cat, so I especially like cats. I like, not I likes, and I like cats in general, plural. So again, we've seen this quite a few times now. Problems with singular nouns versus countable nouns. It is quite a common thing. Not always, but it is quite a common thing with Japanese users of English that they have difficulty sometimes using plural forms of nouns, but it is considered basic grammar.
the reason is firstly like the appearance.
I like this. The reason is firstly. So it's nice, technically a complex sentence. The reason is firstly that blah, 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 blah.
Is so cute and pretty. I love.
So cute and pretty. Very nice pronunciation. Very natural. And there's a little bit of emotion coming through there. You know, you don't just hear that she finds cats cute and pretty. You can feel it in that emotion, not just in the semantic meaning of the word, but you feel it in the emotion that they're cute and pretty. Very good.
Them, and but also like as the
Very natural American, but also like very American. Very nice.
another reasons. I love how
Another reasons, again, another is followed by a singular noun. Another reason. Some other reasons, but another reason. So again, another problem with singular or plural.
the not only for cat, but I love the how
Not only for cats in general, not cat. Singular versus plural nouns, it's becoming a problem.
animal can make people relax. Even for example, I had a lot of assessment that I got from really naughty professor. I
How about that? A naughty professor? Maybe a strict professor? A harsh professor? A tough professor? Maybe a cruel professor, but I don't know about naughty. Naughty is usually an adjective that we use to describe children who break rules, right? Like, eat your food. No, I don't want it. Don't be so naughty. So I don't know about naughty professor. And also maybe the answer is just going off topic a little bit. She is extending it full, and she goes on now to speak about how animals can help people to feel relaxed, which is fine. It's a good point. And now she's going on to give an example of her and her professor, which again, it is connected to the topic, but maybe the answer is just a little long. So of course, it's great when candidates extend and develop their answers, but we don't want to overdevelop.
I sometimes feel really like nervous, but also like sometimes being so sad.
So we get a bit of British pronunciation here, like nervous, dropping that R. So some of her accent is rhotic with her R's, and some of them don't have this non-vocalic R. This like computer versus computer, or nervous versus nervous. So sometimes she has aspects of British English and sometimes aspects of American English, but it all sounds good, it all sounds clear, it all sounds nice, it all sounds natural.
By full of assessment, but even at the time, I think animal has a strong power to heal people and also like touch their mind.
So, animals have a strong power to heal people nice and touch their mind. don't know. Like, touch their heart is okay. Touch their mind. I don't know how I feel about that collocation, that expression. Just feels a little bit strange. And at this point, I remember in the test thinking like we've gone quite far away from the original question.
And would you like to have a pet in the future?
Of course, I would like to. Not only
So nice. Of course, I would like to. Right. This is omission. She doesn't say, of course, I would like to have a pet. Of course, I would like to. And she includes that too. We actually teach this at C1, this use of omission and substitution. So it's very good stuff. It's not very well, it's not easily noticeable, but as an expert, you do notice these little bits of C1 grammar and you think, it's nice. And so it's kind of strange, even at this point in part one. Oh, I'll wait for her to finish part one before I give feedback.
cat, of course, but I also like to have a bird and dogs and a lot of animals.
She's saying bird, I don't know. There's a little bit sloppy, a little bit lazy with the pronunciation, maybe. Let's just listen again.
Like to have a bird and
I'd like to have a birded. I don't know what she's saying there, so she's lost meaning in that pronunciation.
dogs and a lot of animals.
Okay, thank you. Now, in this part of the test...
Okay, so that's the end of part one, and already I've kind of got a few... Not quite a dilemma, but I have some complications already in my grading. So right off the bat, right immediately, what do we notice about her? She's a very confident speaker. She's very relaxed. The language comes out of her without difficulty. Mention one of the things that I think about with fluency and coherence. How much pain is the candidate in? When I look at the candidate, does it feel like she's really fighting to get the words, to find the words? With Miyuki, certainly not. She's relaxed. The language comes out of her. She even, if she has hesitations, she fills them with kinder and like, and it's all good natural stuff. She's very relaxed. Great. Some of the pronunciation features, the chunking, the intonation, very natural. She has a combination of some British, some American style English, but doesn't matter. It's all natural. It's wonderful. Fantastic. Some decent vocab, but there are huge issues with like the basic grammar where you think like, how can somebody who's this good at English make mistakes like I am study, or they say another reasons, but they say friend instead of friends, and free times instead of free time. Now the good news for Miyuki is that her mistakes don't stop me from understanding her in terms of grammar. I understand what she means. But the bad news is that because the mistakes are so frequent and because they're with such basic grammar, it does leave a negative impression that you can't help but think like, oh, that should be fixed, or oh, that's a mistake, or oh, that's wrong, or oh, that's not quite right. And the frequency becomes a problem. So in part one, a strong start, a lot of good stuff. What I'm looking for in part two is maybe a little bit more expansive vocab. Now, in part two, of course, there won't be questions from the examiner, so hopefully she can use her own vocab. One problem she had in part one is that maybe she didn't paraphrase enough. She used the language in the questions in her answers. So in part two, I'm looking for a bit of vocab here. I'm hoping she'll tidy up some of those mistakes. So sometimes in part one, students can be a little bit nervous. When students or candidates are nervous, they tend to make mistakes that they wouldn't usually make, but because they're nervous, they make those mistakes with present simple, they make those mistakes with singular and plural. So what I'm really hoping for is in part two, Miyuki will settle down, she will relax, and she will control better her basic grammar. So I'm looking already fluency, fine, coherence, more or less okay, discourse markers nice, pronunciation generally great except for some small parts, but I'm looking for better control, and maybe some nice topic specific vocab. Let's see if we get it.
I'm going to give you a topic, and I would like you to speak about this topic for 1 to 2 minutes. But before that, you will have 1 minute to prepare for your talk. You may take notes if you wish. Do you understand?
Yes.
Okay. I will now share the topic on my screen.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like you to describe a special event or festival that you liked. To
Okay.
remind you, you have 1 minute preparation time, and that 1 minute starts now. Okay, so that's the end of your 1 minute preparation time. To remind you, you have between 1 and 2 minutes to give your talk, so don't worry if I stop you at the end. Can you start speaking now, please?
Yes. So my favorite, I have a my favorite celebration is a New Year celebration in Japan.
So the task is to describe a special event or a festival that you like. Now, New Year, I guess it is a festival, isn't it? Like Chinese Spring Festival, that's a festival. So New Year, I guess it is a festival. I'll allow it.
Since I born and raised in Japan, for 18 years, whole my life,
Again, grammar, since I born and raised. Since I born, like, I am born and raised. I was born and raised.
I spent um my life with the New Year celebration every year. And as the
Feels a little bit redundant. Now, redundant means that it's like details that you give me that are very obvious that I don't need to learn, right? You spent all of your life with a New Year celebration every year. Well, yeah, most people do. It's okay. Like you're speaking specifically about the Japanese one, so maybe it's okay.
name of the New Year celebration, it's our events to
Celebration. I heard a v in there, celebration, and this v will be repeated, I think.
celebrate the start of New Year.
Celebrate. So again, get that but right. I know many people have problems with individual sounds and it can be a real pain, but and v. Even after the test, I asked her to read, I wrote the word celebrate and asked her to read it out loud, and she pronounced it with a v, and after correction, she was able to say celebrate immediately. So that's good, but more awareness. So keep that in mind that you have a problem with the b, that you often pronounce it as a v. Now, this is often a problem that some Spanish speakers have. I had a former housemate who was Mexican, and he just couldn't. He was like C1, C2, yeah, C2 speaker of English for sure. But he just told me, like, I don't hear any difference between but and the. And even after trying to explain about, like, the lips and the but and the teeth and the lower lip, but still, he said, no, there's no difference, but and the is the same. I didn't know that this thing existed with some Japanese users of English too, but celebrate with a but, celebrate, celebrate.
In January 1st. And that's the really Japanese tradition, which came from like really, really, really long time, and there is a lot of history background. And
So I don't see a nice flow of information here. I see a lot of disconnected parts. Like part 2 is a long turn, and so you want to deliver a nice flowing speech, not just a bunch of disconnected sentences. So if an example here might be, all right, so if I have to think about some special event that I like, I'll have to go with New Year's. Now, I'm from Wales, so of course we celebrate New Year's in a typical Welsh way. In many countries around the world, New Year's is a celebration for the family. However, in Wales, it's much more about friends. We have Christmas for our family, but New Year is for friends. So what do we do at New Year's? Well, firstly, it's important to say that New Year's starts early. We like to meet at somebody's house first of all. We like to have like pre-party drinks, and maybe we play some party games. So you can see in my talk here, I'm trying to link everything together into one nice speech. Whereas Miyuki's presentation, Miyuki's long turn, her monologue is a little bit, just feels divided into slightly disconnected parts.
so usually especially my family, we celebrate together at
But celebrate. I will stop correcting that now.
our house. But not only our family, many like relatives will come to my house and we gonna celebrate it together. And what I like especially is we can get otoshidama. which is the money which the parents and your relatives give it to.
So Miyuki had an interesting question after the test. She said, in the test I used a Japanese word. I used a couple of Japanese words. Is that okay? Now, my response to this is absolutely, but you should explain what it is. So Miyuki does that, right? So she uses this Japanese word and then immediately explains, oh, this is the tradition of like when your family or relatives gives you money. Great, cool. Family or relatives give you money. Yeah, control. So if you have that question yourself, like, is it okay for me to use a word in my own language? Yeah, sometimes there are words which are culturally owned by your country, and so you may not have a translation, or the translation might sound strange. So yeah, it is absolutely fine to use, one or two terms from your own language if it's about a specific cultural feature, but make sure you explain, like Miyuki did, make sure you explain what that means.
The children. And unfortunately, I become 18 and officially adult from 2024. I would not be able to get money, otoshidama, from next year, but I could able to get some in last year. So it
Or could able to, like was able to, not could able to, I was able to.
was really great moment for me. And
So now again, she's drifted, right? So it's about describing a special event. That's the main theme of the topic. Now, you are allowed to go off topic a little bit, but it seems that we've gone right off topic now, and she's speaking about, since she turned 18 now, she's not able to get this money anymore, and now she's speaking, and it's now it seems that the main theme is this thing of giving or getting money, and we've gone a little bit far, so she's going to try to pull it back, I guess.
as part of like mainly my house, I had a tradition that even if I got money, the parents have to manage it. But for otoshidama, the money that I got from New Year was the different. So I really loved that.
Okay, thank you.
And
So so I have a roundup question.
And is it normal in your country for people to celebrate New Year with their friends or with their family?
yes, I think that's the normal things in Japan.
So the question is it normal to spend New Year with your friends or with your family? Which one? What's more normal, to spend it with your friends or to spend it with your family? And her answer is yes, I think that's normal in Japan. So I think she misunderstood the question there, or at least her answer doesn't correspond to or cohere with the question. It's like, do you like tea or coffee? What do you prefer, tea or coffee? Yes.
Um, um, there's also have another tradition which called like nengajo, which is
There is also another tradition, or we also have, but we can't mix those constructions, right? We also have another tradition, or we have another tradition, or there is also another tradition.
a letter you send to celebrate the New Year's. But I think
So at the end of part 2, the examiner usually asks a rounding off question, and it should be short. So, is it normal to spend New Year with friends or family? I think, on the whole, I think most people prefer to spend it with their family, and that's enough, right? And it's the purpose of this rounding off question is just a way to finish up quickly and then move to part 3. But Miyuki's extending her answer a little bit. I sympathize with candidates here, because we always tell people, extend your answers, answer in full, give longer answers. But certainly at the end of part 2, we like to ask a short question, short answer, and then we can get into part 3.
most of the peoples are sending that.
Now I'd like to speak about.
So I'm going to skip forward to part 3. So some feedback on part 2. So I just felt like maybe there wasn't enough in there about New Year, that it was more about this one specific feature of New Year, of this Japanese tradition of relatives giving money to younger people. And it felt just a little bit disjointed. So it didn't feel like you have that 1 minute preparation time, and when you're training for IELTS, that's a huge thing for you to learn how to do, to learn how to prepare and then deliver a flowing, cohesive, connected speech, not just a bunch of slightly connected sentences.
This topic more generally. Why do you think celebrations are important in society?
So this will be a real test for her now in part 3. So far she's struggled a little bit with lost coherence, or a little bit with maybe the answers go a little bit off topic, or they don't quite hit the target. Now in part 1 that should be quite easy to hit the target. In part 3 it's a little bit more difficult because the questions are unfamiliar, the questions are impersonal. Now this first question, think carefully about it, right? Why, or let's listen to my question again.
Thank you. So you've been talking about a special event are important in society.
So why are celebrations important in society? Why are celebrations important in society? Let's see the answer.
So firstly, to
I like the use of firstly, these like sequences. They're really good for discourse markers. They're really great to let the listener know like where you are, like this signposting language. So firstly, blah, 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 and secondly, also it can help with stretching your intonation across long turns. So firstly, and secondly, so using those firstly, secondly with the right intonation really helps to get the highest marks in pronunciation.
as you think society as a family,
As you think society is a family? I don't quite get that. Did you say as you think society?
Important in society.
so firstly, as you think society as a family.
As it sounds like she's saying as you think society is a family, and so I don't understand that.
I think celebration is the really
But
good opportunity for family to connect them, but also like
it's a good opportunity for families to connect them. But we're talking about society, so why are celebrations important in society? Society isn't just a family. Society is all of the different families living together.
make their bond more stronger within a
I'd like evidence of this. How do these celebrations make bonds stronger?
children and adult. Even if you are family and close together for every time, I think there's some distance, especially when if your child are in the early adolescence. So I think that's a really good
Adolescence is a nice word.
event, but also the time.
Event instead of event, so just a small problem with the wrong stress. But I'm not worried about pronunciation anymore. I already know what her pronunciation is. I'm curious to see if she can just hit the target, like if she can hit exactly with some of these answers.
That you can spend their family, but also to talk about what happened in the year to reflect themselves together.
So to reflect, again, we get reflect. So again, this reflect.
How do you
And
think
also-
celebrating together can make this bond stronger?
Sorry. So I asked this follow-up question here. How do you think celebrating together can make this bond stronger? So I feel like she hasn't quite given me that answer, and that's what I want now. So I've asked my follow-up question to dig in. Can we hit the target this time? Can you explain to me clearly in simple language, can you explain to me how celebrating together makes bonds stronger?
So firstly, like celebrating together means like sharing your memories together. So I think even after the event, there could have some time that you can talk about that by memorizing or like reflecting that. And also like
So not memorizing. Memorizing is when you like remember facts, like what is the capital city of Somalia? Okay, memorize the answer. Mogadishu. You mean reminiscing. So we have this nice verb to reminisce. That means to speak about the things that you remember, to reminisce about something. But I will say that her answer is okay, because she said like celebrating together is about sharing memories, and that's certainly, I can understand why that helps to strengthen bonds. So she didn't offer the clearest answer immediately, but with a bit of follow-up she was able to do it. So the coherence is okay here.
Like especially the celebration that I talked about, which is New Year celebration in Japan. They have the tradition to eat food together. So I think the food also have the like event related to food also could be our
So I just feel like the answer's gone on for too long now, and I don't think we're getting any more juice out of the answer, so I'm going to move to another question.
to unite people together
Once I get a chance, I'm just waiting here. I'm not listening anymore. I'm waiting for my chance to jump in and ask another question.
by doing the same thing.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to move on now and talk about international events. Do you think international sporting events are more popular with older people or younger people?
So again, we have an or question. So are they more popular with younger or older? I'm hoping here we get an answer. Do we get younger people because blah, 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 older people because blah, 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 blah?
I think it's for older people.
Great. So we get the answer for older people. Now do we get a justification? Do we get a reason why international sporting events are attractive for older people but not for younger people?
Yes. Because for me, I'm the person who usually not see the sports. And
So, she says that she doesn't watch sports, but again, keep this, I mentioned this in a previous test. Generally, lower level learners find it difficult to speak about unfamiliar topics. They find it difficult to speak about impersonal topics, about wider world subjects about society, subjects about people in general. And when they have those problems, they bring it back to themselves. They speak about themselves. I do this, I do that. Now, of course, you can use yourself as an example for evidence to back up and develop. That's fine. But that shouldn't replace the answer. So I really want to find out, why does Miyuki think that older people are more attracted to sports in Japan and younger people aren't? And maybe we'll get an answer, but she's going to speak about herself. So far she said that she doesn't watch sports.
in the movie, but also like face to face.
So she says she doesn't watch it in the movie. I guess she means on TV, and face to face, like live. I don't watch sport on TV, and I don't watch sport live, or I don't watch sport in the flesh. Difficult terms, but okay.
So I mean, since I'm the youngest in Japan, I think I assume that many older people really like to see their sports international.
Yeah, so it's not a great answer, unfortunately. So basically she's saying, I think older people like watching sports. Why? Because I'm young and I don't watch sports. Well, yeah, sorry, it's not a good enough answer.
Like even in Olympics, I usually see my parents really fascinating to see the soccer.
Okay, so this is an example that, her parents are older and her parents, not fascinating, but fascinated or very interested in.
And also baseball. But honestly, for me, I don't like kind of interest to.
So, yeah, it kind of makes sense, right? Her parents like baseball, she doesn't. Her parents are older and she's younger. That kind of explains why she thinks it, but it's not a very articulate or a very direct or clear way of giving the answer.
See the sports. Like I love to do sports by myself, but not to see or watch some.
And again, her development is very personal. I love to do sports, but not watch sports. It's like, okay, the question is about young people in general or old people in general, not just about you personally.
People playing. So I think there are more popular around the older ages.
And do you think international sporting events, things like the Olympics, do you think they can help to promote like cooperation and understanding between different countries?
So again, let's think about the question. can international sporting events help to promote cooperation or understanding, right? So when we have World Cups and Olympics, does this do good things for international relations or not? We're looking for a yes or no answer and an explanation why or why not.
Honestly, I don't think that could show the collaboration between.
Cool. So we're getting an answer. No, honestly. And I really like the hesitancy in the honestly. I don't think that it can show collaboration. This is really high level vocab that there is a tendency, particularly in British English, that when we say no to things, we almost sound a little bit regretful, almost like we are sorry for saying no. And you feel this in her pronunciation. Let's just listen to that again because it is instructive, I think. Honestly, like the stretched out, the pausing, almost an apologetic answer.
Honestly, I don't think that could show the collaboration between the countries.
The collaboration between countries, so that rising at the end, a very Californian valleys type of thing, or even Australian, the rising at the end of the sentence, but it's nice.
Because I think what the people mostly expecting to see the international sports is like to make sure like to will the players or the group that you are love could be win.
Yeah, to will the players that you love could be win. So grammar's breaking down here. To will the players that you love to win. So you can will somebody to do something. To will the players that you love to win. That's okay. And again, the answer, I get what she's saying. It's not, again, it requires a little bit of interpretation. I have to think a little bit about, that's what she means. It's not explained perfectly clear. In short, in a very clear way, she's saying that these international sporting competitions, they don't help us with collaboration because there's a competitive element to sports, that when we watch sports as the audience, what we really want is for our team to win, and we don't care about the other team. And that's not about being cooperative, that's about being selfish, right? That's what she's trying to say, but she doesn't quite have the vocab, or maybe the grammar, but probably the vocab to express that idea perfectly.
So I think like that.
And so she's aware that she hasn't quite expressed it perfectly, and I think she's going to try again.
That's the kind of that may also cause the like trouble within the country because like since sports have the win and lose.
So again, she's saying in sports you have a winner and a loser. She doesn't use the language perfectly, but you have a winner and a loser. But notice how she's reformulating. She's having another attempt at explaining her idea because she knows that the first time she didn't explain it perfectly. So she's trying again.
I think the people could also argue or fight.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
That is the end of the test.
All right, so I'm sure you can see why this one wasn't an easy one to score. Generally, the students fit nicely into different categories. You hear the pronunciation, you go, okay, that's an easy 5, or you hear vocab, and you say, yeah, it's a perfect 8. Miyuki has a range of very positive and negative features, and so picking the scores for her is kind of tough. And certainly, I could imagine. And Miyuki has actually taken IELTS, I think, 4 times before, and her scores have huge variability. And I think this is evidence, that an examiner who really likes fluency would perhaps even give her an 8. And she has got an 8, I think, in her speaking before. Whereas an examiner that likes grammar might only give her a 6, and she has got 6 in her speaking before. So you can see there's a huge gap here. So these are the scores that I have given her. Let's jump to it. That one. So for fluency and coherence, I've given her a 7. So why? You might think, well, the coherence in part 3, that really wasn't very good. She went off topic. She didn't really address the question with like really relevant full answers. But The ability to keep going was very strong, particularly at the beginning. She doesn't have any pain to maintain a flow of speech. Sometimes there are hesitations, especially in part 3. They don't create big breakdowns. I've put coherence is occasionally lost. Now, there could be a different term here. Occasionally lost, maybe frequently lost. Would that change the score? She drifts off topic or makes irrelevant comments. But I think there is enough in her discourse markers, those like firstly and not only, and very natural little bits of language to signpost, to direct the conversation. I think her fluency is enough. Now I have heard that when it comes to fluency and coherence, they look at your fluency and they give you a score, and they look at your coherence and they give you a score, and whichever one is lower is the mark that you get. Now, I promise you that not all examiners do it that way, although I have heard a very prominent YouTuber say that that is what happens at IELTS. I promise you that not all examiners do it that way. Promise you. I've given her fluency and coherence 7. I think she has enough lexical resource. I've given her 6. Enough vocabulary to speak about familiar and unfamiliar topics, fine. She loses some things like the winner and the loser, and maybe she was looking for the word like competitive when she was talking about sports, and she just didn't quite hit enough of those topic-specific vocabulary items, which I would have liked. So not enough vocab for a 7 for sure. Paraphrasing was also, I mentioned that during the analysis, that so much of the language that she uses is the direct repetition of the language that the examiner asks in the question. So that's why I've given her a 6 for that. Grammatical range and accuracy, 6 at best. Now, maybe there is a case for a lower mark, but there were some nice complex sentences in there. Like what I like is like this cleft sentence. You teach that at C1. A lot of complex sentences. And I don't mean difficult grammar. I mean complex sentences with subordinate clauses or coordinating clauses or compound clauses or all of that linguistic jargon. Some features of nice grammar, really some features, but of course, so many problems with basic grammar. Singular versus plural nouns, misuse of the verb to be, and many others throughout. The small mistakes don't affect her communication, but there are so many of them that I can't award a 7 for grammatical range and accuracy. Pronunciation 7, again a tricky one. So she certainly has the potential to get an 8 for pronunciation, no doubt. Really excellent range of phonetic features. Phonetic features like the vowel sounds, the consonant sounds, nasality, I forgot that term for when the air comes out. Sorry, a long time ago I studied all of those linguistic terms of phonological features. She gets her glottal stops like one. That it's nice. So a very, very strong range of phonetic features, of phonological features. Good stuff, good stuff. Intonation is sustained throughout. Not through all of the test. There are cases where the intonation breaks down a little bit, but I'd say a good 80% of it she maintains and sustains good intonation. Chunking is very natural. The way she groups certain words together, very natural, very strong, and even some subtle emotion. When she's like, honestly, I don't think that it's like really cooperative. So really, and when she's talking about cats, like cute and pretty, so you feel the emotion in her pronunciation, which is very high. But why didn't I give her an 8? I just felt like there were too many mistakes with individual words, too many pronunciation errors that led to confusion, too many pronunciation errors where I thought, I don't quite know what she's saying there because I don't understand the pronunciation. So 7, because I think her pronunciation is very strong, but not higher. So overall, that gives her band 6.5, according to my estimates. So 4 things to work on. Number 1, tidy up the basic grammar mistakes. You have very good grammar. You have very good grammar range, but the accuracy, present simple, using the verb to be, these very, very elementary pre-intermediate grammar mistakes. If she tightens up the control, if she improves the control, the accuracy, she can get a 7 for sure. Secondly, this is a very easy thing. You can strategize with this. You can work with this. You can practice doing this with writing or just in your head. Try to avoid repeating the examiner's language so much. A few times, absolutely fine. Practice paraphrasing. Do a task where you have a question like, what kind of music do you like? Where you answer, instead of I like rock music, you say, I'm into rock music. What did you do at the weekend? Well, instead of saying at the weekend, maybe say last weekend. Last weekend I went to. You can practice this. You can practice paraphrasing. That will maybe give you a higher score. Language specific vocab or topic specific vocab. So, when we talk about international events, what type of words do we use? When we talk about sport, what type of words do we use? When we talk about animals, what type of words do we use when we specifically talk about those things? That can be a more difficult thing to learn. It takes a longer time. So if you're looking for fast improvement, it won't work. Number 3, try to stay on topic a little better. Some digression. Digression means going off topic. Some digression is absolutely okay, and I like the fact that she extends her answers, but try to keep the main idea of the question in mind. I know it sounds so obvious, but make sure that you answer exactly the question that is asked. And then finally, I know it's not easy. I know a lot of people have problems with individual sounds, but try getting just those 3 sounds. R, L, and B. Sorry, not R, but R. Rabbit. L. Liberal. Liberal. So unfortunately, this word liberal has a L, a B, and a R in there. And so this is why we get this really confusing thing. Liberal arts. Global liberal arts. So practice on getting those things right, and if you tidy up those things, for sure 8 in pronunciation should be absolutely achievable. So I certainly think Miyuki can get a 7.5 again. She has got a 7.5 for speaking before, and certainly with the right type of questions and in the right type of mood and with the right type of control and focus, getting a 7.5 again I think is achievable. I don't see her getting an 8. I think 7.5 at the moment is her ceiling. Now, she's still young, and I'm sure if she continues studying English in the future, with a good teacher, she's probably a year away from getting 8.5 or 9. But if she continues just to practice by herself, who knows what she'll get. Anyway, I hope you found that useful. Quite a long one, over 50 minutes. I'm sure Miyuki is the only person still watching right now. But yeah, as I mentioned at the beginning, I am giving away free practice tests in May. If you would like me to analyze your speech and give you scores and give you a bunch of feedback about how you perform in the IELTS speaking test, please do get in touch. But I'll leave it there for now. Thank you very much and goodbye.